If you have a difficult locate, if nothing else can help, and if you can find an 8100, maybe you can blast through those obstacles that stop other locators. The Subsurface Solutions team is here to give you 21 things most people don't know the Radiodetection 8100 can do.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Step off. You step off. Are you using 8 kilohertz? Because I was on 8 kilohertz first. Dude, I have to use 8 kilohertz.
Just got an 8000.
Well, I do have an 8100. I guess I can step up.
That's what
I
we're
can
talking
step
about.
up my frequency.
Yeah.
And so all I have to do is hold down on that F key for a couple seconds and I see the word step show up. And this is called sidestep. And hit the TX button, send that back to the transmitter. It steps up my 8 kilohertz just enough so we don't interfere with each other. Isn't that cool? Should upgrade. Get the 8100.
I'd like to.
Later.
Thank you.
Got a line there and a line here. If you've ever used the power mode on the 8100, what power mode does is kind of pick up anything with a 60 hertz variable. So it's going to pick up 60, 120, 180, and so on and so on. But the depth reading that shows up on there sometimes isn't nearly as accurate because it's picking up so many different frequencies. So there are power filters in the 8100. If you just hit the peak null button once, you'll notice I can go to straight 60 hertz. So if I know I'm looking for a single phase primary line, that's what you want, and you get a better depth reading. But this is probably a 3-phase, so I'm going to go to 180, and you notice my depth is now different. I got a 2'8" reading, and the nice thing about the power filters is it also gives you the arrows and the compass, just like hooking on like with the transmitter. So you have a bunch of different power filters you can select through. So if you have more than one line in there, just go through them and see which one picks up the best and which one gives you the most accurate depth reading possibly. So those are power filters on the 8100. If you want to check the calibration of your receiver, you can simply do it by doing the eCal service, online service on RD Manager. But that costs a little bit of money, and you can do a test mode easily in the field when you're out there locating by hitting the on-off key real quick, getting into the menu screen, and then scrolling through the menu up or down until you get to the word info. When you see info, hit the peak and null button, go into it. And we're not going to do an insert, we're going to do a test. So I just toggled down once, saw the test, go into it by hitting the peak null button again, and it says, yes, do you want to run a test? You confirm that by hitting the F key for frequency. And now it's going to go through and take a test of, make a test of all the little calibrations and the hardware inside there. It's going to take about 20 seconds, and you'll see the progress as the bar moves to the right. If it passes the test, it will say pass. If it fails, it will say fail. But make sure you run this test when you're not around a transmitter, not around any kind of metal, like a tailgate of a truck, because otherwise it will fail the test. If it does fail the test, get into a different area. Maybe turn off the Bluetooth on your phone and try to run the test again. Do it 2 or 3, 4 times. It's free, so you might as well go ahead and test your unit once in a while. Make sure everything's working properly. And once it does come back and say pass or fail, you're going to see it here in about 2 seconds, 1 second, and passed. Yay, we passed that test. One of my only tests I passed. But you're going to have to turn the unit off and turn it back on to get back to regular, normal operating mode. You can also check the depth reading by putting your transmitter on the ground, just like we have right here. Use 8 kilohertz for this. And I'm going to toggle through my options here until I get to 8 kilohertz SON mode. There's 2 8 kilohertz in there. So we have 8 kilohertz line mode, and next one is 8 kilohertz SON mode. You've got to be in SON mode to check it out because you're acting like this transmitter is your SON. And we're going to measure out 15 foot here. And I'm going to put the receiver on the ground pointing towards the transmitter and see if it measures 15 foot. Make sure your tape measure, if it's metal, is a good foot or so away from the transmitter. So we're right about 15 foot right there. And as you can see on the screen right there, I got it lined up pointing towards the transmitter, and I have 15 foot on the screen of my receiver, verifying that my depth calibration is good on the receiver.
Did you know that the Radiodetection 8100 marker ball locator can find underground buried marker balls and line locate at the same time? Simply fold down the marker antenna when you want to search for your buried marker. Your signal will show the location of the marker and the depth underneath in the lower right. To line locate, just simply press the antenna button once. The arrows will direct your path of the cable and pipe that your signal strength will alert you when you're over the marker. Why walk out your line twice when you could do it once with the Radiodetection 8100 marker ball locator?
One of the things that happens when we're out locating is eventually our batteries might start to run a little bit low, but you still want to be able to keep locating. You want to make sure that while you're out doing your locate, it doesn't just run out of signal on you. So if your batteries are getting low, one of the things that you can do is you could go in the menu and then just press up or down to scroll through. I'm going to press down until I see max P for max power. I'm going to right arrow into the menu, and you can see it's set at 10 watts right now, which means we can use up to 10 watts of battery. If we're worried about our batteries going out, make sure that we don't go too high. We can go to say 2 watts or maybe even 1 watt. And then it's going to use less power, and we just left arrow back out of the screen, and now we're good on our batteries and it won't use near as much current and voltage. Okay, so one of the features that you'll see that's on the radio detection transmitter is to pick an optimal frequency. If we press the power button, that will open up the menu, and I'm just going to press down until I get to OPT and F for optimal frequency. And then we just right arrow further into that menu. And then if we want to exit out for some reason, we can press up or down, but we're going to just left arrow out, and that's going to get it going. And here it's going to do a scan, or it's going to search for what it thinks the optimal frequency to be able to use this locate is. I would say this isn't perfect. It's looking for things like basically how good of continuity do we have, is it grounded? It could put you on a frequency that's just going to, in a congested corridor, mess you up. You'll notice that oftentimes 8 kilohertz is an optimal frequency to use. It will go to that a lot. That's a good habit, just to start with 8 kilohertz or a lower frequency anyways.
You may come across this quite a bit where you have to locate a light pole, but you can't get the ring clamp around the pole. The pole may be metal or fiberglass or something. You can't get in the pole. You have no access. One thing you can do is make your own kind of ring clamp using the 30-foot spool that radio detection gives you. Just go ahead and wrap it around the pole as many times as you can, or any utility that you need to try to ring clamp around, maybe a really large pipe, and hook the black lead up to one side, red lead up to the other side, and you've just created your own ring clamp. I'll go ahead and select 200 kilohertz on my transmitter. Get out here, away from the pole a little bit. Not going to pick up much signal, but it will be enough to get it located. Here we are. 200 kilohertz, compass is right on. I'm only picking up 0.12 milliamps, but I have a 2.5 foot depth reading, and I'll be able to locate this out to the next pole, perform the ring clamp trick again, and that's the 30-foot spool, yellow spool ring clamp trick.
Did you know your locator can actually come with the cup holder as well? It's hot out today. I'm gonna get myself something here. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Easy way to stay hydrated and be happy.
Probably noticed that the radio detection has an automated depth reading, but there's another way to get your depth. There's a couple other ways you can get your depth, and what you probably don't know is the 45-degree angle thing. I mean, I used to use it all the time. If you're in guidance mode, or if you're in peak null combined mode with using the guidance arrows, you can go ahead and find your locate, 2'3", and then go to a 45-degree angle with your receiver and find it again. And right where the arrows match up on the screen is right about there, and we are at 27 inches, or 2'3". Another way to find your depth, bonus material here, is to go to single peak mode. If you hit your peak null button, you want to go to the single hill icon, the small hill icon, turn up your gain level directly over the top of the cable or pipe until your gain hits 99.9. Right when it hits 99.9, let's see, one more hit. There we go, 99.9. And then move to the side until you get to 50%. Where you hit 50%, which is right about there. Yeah, right about there. Oh, look, we're at 2'6". Yeah, 2'3", 27 inches, 28 inches right there. And you want to probably double verify using the 45-degree angle or the single peak response in both directions to make sure it's the equal distance on both sides. You got it right there? All right.
Got it right here.
Hey, the cool thing about the radio detection unit is on a multi-lane corridor, you can use the great induction coil that it comes with to induce into a neighboring line that's right next to a line that you've already traced out. So he's got to locate on this gas line here using the CPS cathodic protection system mode. We get nothing on the other line that's over here. And so in order to pick this one up, what I can do is put up the handy dandy little kickstand on the side of the transmitter over the top of where we know this line is, and that's going to focus the induction that way, and anything off to the side of the transmitter it's going to ignore. You want to see if you can pick up that there? I am on...
What frequency?
Let's go to 83 kilohertz. So I'm going to put this transmitter straight up and down first, and Brent's down the way there. He's about 50 foot away, and he's going to go ahead and locate this line underneath the marker. Got it?
Got it.
And now I'm going to put the transmitter on its side over that locate. And now he's going to move his locate to the other line.
On there.
And now he's on the other one. Just about 10 foot, not even 10 foot away, probably about 8 foot away.
Got it. Good depth. Got it.
Cool. And that's the kickstand induction kickstand.
Hi, I'm here to show you a unique trick that you can do with the RD8100. The cool thing about it is this Bluetooth, it can go over a quarter mile away, which means that we can use a nice low frequency like 512 hertz right now that's going to do a really good job of locating out in a congested easement. The other thing it's going to do is locate a really long distance. We're going to get less interference when we get into congested areas. So we're going to have a really good locate. The problem is when we're trying to get back up these services, you're going to notice I'm going right by this service right now and I'm not picking it up. So that's where we can change the frequency to a high frequency, the ones that pick up more of the utilities. But since we're going to this area of the house on the side where there's no other utilities around, we could go ahead and sync it up. I like to raise it up in the air. That always gives me some extra distance. Here are the two beeps, and now we can actually start to locate up this service right here. So we're picking it up. Let's see if we can make it all the way. And here we are. We're right up to the gas meter. This trick makes so you can go ahead, cover a whole block without connecting over and over again. Just make sure you're cautious and that it's taking you back up to the meter.
RD Manager is the Windows PC software package for Radiodetection's Precision 7100 and 8100 locator range. This software can be downloaded for free over the Radiodetection website. It allows the user to communicate to the receiver and transmitter using the USB port found inside the battery area. You can register each of the locators for an extended 3-year warranty. You can also download the latest software updates, and you can configure your locators, antennas, and frequencies using the software. You can load up to 5 of your own customizable frequencies. You can transfer and export log data and GPS survey measurements, and all the data can be exported as an Excel file or a Google Earth map. You can also remotely certify your locator's calibration using the eCert program. You can download the original calibration certificate or any previous certificates. All of them are stored inside of each unit.
When you're scrolling through your frequencies and you pass the one you want, you can just hold down the F key and hit the down arrow and it will scroll backwards.
What a radio detection transmitter does is voltage is like pressure, current's your flow. It automatically adjusts the pressure and it only go up to 30 volts. Right now I'm not connected yet, but the reason for that is because it's actually kind of it's dangerous once you start to get beyond 30 volts. Technically that's enough that that could be life-threatening or even just cause some sort of harm or fibrillation. but it does have underneath the menu a way for us to be able to use higher voltage. In fact, it'll go all the way up to 90 volts. Now technically, it's not a bad idea to use safety gloves. So if we press the power button, we can go into the menu, and then I right arrow into it, and I can go to high. You'll notice it's going to give us a caution once we go back out, and it's going to say, hey, careful, there's a lot of voltage here. Now, I did a little trick right here. We have this ground contact, and look, our voltage is staying pretty low. We're getting a lot of current out. That means we have good ground continuity, but I want to be able to override that in a sense. We could just eliminate our ground contact. It's counterintuitive to what you normally want to do. But if we watch on here, watch how this is just going to go up and up. And here we are at 90 volts with less ground contact. It's a simple trick, and it could do wonders. Oh, God. Oh. An RD8100 is a really cool feature for fault finding. That either trying to find where that cable went bad, either on a ground bed, an electric line, tracer wire, whatever it might be, where it's touching the ground, where the cable's bad. An A-frame helps you find a different way of looking at it, a gradient through the ground. So normally on radio detection, we go to 8K fault find. This is really helpful. It helps you get all the way down the line so you can locate it out. But sometimes when the soil gets dry, say it's like a dry farm field, loose till, whatever it might be, you don't get as sharp of a gradient. You don't get as much current leaving the ground at that point. So what we can do is we can change it to any frequency and actually do a fault find, and especially say like a 256 hertz current direction. This is a really low frequency. It's going to give us arrows and point us to our fault, and it's going to work even in dry conditions. This is a really helpful feature, being able to change the frequency. So I'm going to just start out and see what my decibel response is. It's usually really high when we're on 512 hertz. You'll notice though, when I plug in the A-frame, it goes straight to 8K fault find. It's flashing because it's picking something up, but on a different frequency. Well, we could press frequency and toggle between them. We've got 99.9 decibels. This is off the chart. It's leaving the ground really easily at this low frequency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate this out while I'm out doing the fault find. So one of the things that we can do is if we press the mode button, we can go out and we can actually locate while we're doing our fault find. But I'm just going to check out the numbers right here. We've got 57.7 decibels. It's going to go lower as we go along this line. Back to locating it out. And we just need to check every so often, you know, depending on how far out it seems, how far those numbers are dropping. 62.5, we're getting closer to something. Oh, arrow's pointing back. I went past something. Decibels high, 68.7. Let's work backwards. 75.7. It's getting higher. The higher that number is, the more likely you're at a fault. It's pointing backwards and that number is getting low. Right when you start to get over the fault, you get a low number, and you can see our arrows switching at this spot. Right where you get that dip, at the lowest point, is right where that break is at. I can go back and I can try to relocate the line, really get it down to the exact little pinpoint and get down to an inch or two. Using different frequencies, especially these low frequencies, gives you the ability to do way more with the fault find than you can do with most other brands, most things that you can actually try to think of. So be open-minded. Try using 256 hertz current direction.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to find that spot where it's not as
No, what are you doing with this cable?
Oh, you know, sometimes you don't have a valve key. Sometimes you don't have a way to be able to get a signal onto the pipe, and maybe you got a gasket that's giving you an issue here at the hydrant and you just want to get on the water line. So what we've got on here is we've got a no rhodium magnet. Now this is 10 times stronger than your average magnet, so you'll notice it'll stick to the casing really easily. You want to drop this on pretty quick, but this gives us another way to be able to hook on to plenty of different things, transformers, or you can think of plenty of others, a water valve. So I'm just going to try to drop this on here quick and get some connectivity. Here we're starting to get a little bit of output, still on some rust.
There you go. There you go.
Now we're getting good continuity, and we can locate this line out.
Does that come with the transmitter?
And this does come with the RD8100 kit. It comes with this little spool as well. That way you can be able to do these types of tricks.
Just make sure it's secured so it comes back out and doesn't stay down there, huh?
Yeah, secure it well. Let's see if it's still on there. Oh no!
Oh, it's
there
missing.
it is.
No, there.
All right.
All right.
But if you do this slow, it'll be really frustrating because you'll hit the casing every single time. So really just let it fall fast. The Radiodetection RD8100 has a lot of different current direction frequencies. Right now I'm on 4 kilohertz current direction. The cool thing about this is this brings an arrow up on our screen, and this lets us know that, hey, that our current's going out and away from where we're hooked up at, which is back this way on this power. We also have 3.3 milliamps that it says in the bottom left corner. The depth that makes sense for power. We're going to go over here and just check in the easement. If we had just came out a ways, we might think that this is our line. We're still getting close to 2 milliamps, but about half of what we had before, and look, the arrow's pointing back. It's an easy confirmation, and it's a great tool, especially in congested easements. What we want to be able to do, and that you might not know about your RD8100 with current direction, is sometimes you'll see that this arrow's pointing in the wrong direction. If that ever happens, it's pretty simple. All we do is we want to check to make sure that it's coming out on your red lead with the arrow pointing out and away from your transmitter. If that is wrong, all you do is you just hold down the F button and it'll do it a current direction reset. That way it's in the right direction.
The Radiodetection 8100 frequencies, they have a ton of them. There's 512 is normally your lowest. Some people use 256, the current direction frequency, but that's not the lowest it can go. There's actually an ELF frequency. If you don't see it show up in your frequency range, it's because you have to turn it on or off by going into the menu system, switch to the frequencies, and find it in your menu and turn it on. And we have a whole video on how to do that, but it's down here. There it is, ELF. Go into it, turn it on or off, back out of it. And so now I'm on ELF. What ELF is, it stands for extra low frequency. It's 98 hertz. And so if you have a line that you can't locate, that's 50 miles away, use the pipeline current mapper transmitter. And so this pipeline current current mapper transmitter is a 25 watter, but they also sell this in 150 watts. Puts out a lot of power. You can use it on 98 hertz and use it with the 8100 receiver. So on a fiber line, you could probably go beyond 50 miles, I would say. On a pipeline that's under a deep pipeline underneath a river or something, you can use the 8 kilohertz on the 25 watter and have no problem getting the depth and the distance that you need utilizing it. So that is ELF mode on the 8100.